Formula One is probably the most glamorous of motorsports, but it is no easy job, not for the drivers and certainly not for the behind-the-scenes team. The race director's job is one of the most demanding. He has complete authority over key areas during the race, and usually there has only been one race director, but this summer we see two race directors. Is that a good thing? Retractors fear that will lead to inconsistencies. First up, why two race directors? Now, if you have been following Formula One, you know that the 2021 season was hugely controversial. There was quite a bit of did he win or did he win during the closing moments of the season finale in Abu Dhabi, UAE. Basically, Michael Masi, then race director, botched up the results on the title finisher between Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. The race had to be settled with a one-lap sprint, which eventually saw Max Verstappen pass Lewis Hamilton to win the title of F1 champion. This is following the fact that the safety car restart rules were applied wrongly by Michael Masi. This happened because Michael Masi only let a certain number of lapped cars overtake Lewis Hamilton. This allowed Max Verstappen to move right up behind him with a brand set of tires before restarting the race a whole lap earlier than the regulations stated. And in doing that, Michael Masi more or less sealed his fate. As expected, the FIA president, Mohammed Ben Sulayem, confirmed that Michael Masi would be removed from the position, and an overhauled system of controlling and officiating Formula One races would be put into effect, including the fact that the role of race director would now be filled by two alternating people. Next, two race directors for the first time in Formula One history. Michael Masi has been replaced by Niels Wittich and Eduardo Freitas, both highly experienced motorsports officials. Both will be assisted by 73-year-old Herbie Blasch. The two directors will also be assisted by a virtual control room. Blasch had a similar job under former race director Charlie Whiting, but retired in 2016. Michael Masi has actually stepped in to replace Whiting after his sudden demise just when the 2019 season was about to begin. Starting his career as a motorcycle mechanic, Eduardo Freitas became a trainee race marshal in the 1980s. He worked in a range of roles including chief post marshal, section marshal, general, security marshal, and a marshal on Formula One testing at Estoril. He eventually became the race director for the FIA's World Endurance Championship. In fact, this is a role he continues alongside his role as a Formula One race director. He is said to have masterful control over the multi-class grid of sometimes up to 60 cars. The 60-year-old Portuguese played a role in the operations of the Portuguese Grand Prix of 2020 and also contributed to FIA meetings held by Charlie Whiting. Niels Wittich brings his two-decade experience as an official in motorsports. He has worked as both circuit inspector and race director. In fact, he was a permanent race director for 8 years, most importantly in the Deutsche Tourwagen Masters. He stepped down in 2021 when the FIA asked him to assist Michael Masi on Grand Prix weekends for Formula 2 and 3 races. Wittich was all set to be promoted to Formula 1 for 2022 in a full capacity alongside Michael Masi. He will now hold full responsibility at select Grand Prix, assisted by senior advisor Herbie Blasch and an off-site virtual control system. Freitas and Wittich both bring unmatched experience and a stellar track record to the Formula One track. This is certainly a move in the right direction for the FIA as they move toward an overhaul of the F1 organization. But not everyone is satisfied with the development. Given the debacle in Abu Dhabi, you would think that getting two race directors might improve decision-making and keep things more consistent and fair. However, many Formula One teams feel that this is not the case. Team Haas driver Kevin Magnussen thinks that the FIA's decision to have two race directors instead of one is going to make things difficult. He is of the opinion that it will actually make the rules even more difficult for everybody to understand. The Danish racer noted a difference in the ruling made by Freitas and Wittich over their race weekends in Spain and Azerbaijan, respectively. Valtteri Bottas of Team Alfa Romeo went so far as to suggest that one race director is better than two. This was following the little controversy at the the Monaco race. AlphaTauri's Yuki Tsunoda had some pretty harsh words to say. "I'm not trusting the FIA," said the Japanese racer after he got 4 reprimands in Monaco. So are things moving in the right direction? With so many ace drivers unhappy with the so-called inconsistency in rulings on regulations, what is the way forward for the F1 organization and its 2 race directors? For starters, the FIA remains steadfast in all its decision-making, even the controversy in Abu Dhabi at the hands of Michael Masi. Basically, the way Formula One's pit entry and exit lines rules were worded and applied became a bit controversial in Monaco, as Max Verstappen of Team Red Bull got away with what would have been a penalty. Needless to say, the other teams were not happy with the way things played out, wanting more consistency on how the drivers impeding each other are being regulated. However, Team Ferrari principal Mattia Binotto admitted that all Formula One teams should do their part for race control and work on providing constructive feedback, although he did agree that the lack of consistency was worrying to the teams. Speaking in Baku, Mattia Binotto said that Ferrari had definitely been disadvantaged at the beginning of the season for this very reason. And of course, they were not happy about it, but also admitted that's just how things were now, and they would just have to deal with it. In fact, Danish racer Kevin Magnussen said that it was a bit like the weather, something they could not do anything about. Whether this arrangement of having 2 race directors alternating over race weekends will work or not is something that only time will tell. But for now, the inconsistencies seem to be ticking off the Formula One racers, teams, and fans alike. That's all about whether 2 F1 race directors will lead to more inconsistencies. Now, let's head into some more news from the world of motorsports. First, there are 2 calendars being considered for the 2023 season. According to Joe Saward, a leading Formula One journalist, the 2023 calendar is still quite vague, and the final announcement won't be made until the end of July. It seems that there are 2 different schedules being worked on right now, and there's no indication yet which one will be the final one, but there will be some changes in comparison to this season. One calendar features 23 races, while the other features 24 races. The Monaco Grand Prix is a fixture on both of them. It's the Chinese Grand Prix that is still up in the air. This is because the FIA is not sure what the Chinese government may decide given the COVID pandemic situation. For the first time since 1993, there just might be a race on the African continent. Both of these calendars include a South African Grand Prix to be held in Kyalami, but it seems that the political turmoil in the country leaves a question mark hanging over this Grand Prix, and there's a new race in Las Vegas too in 2023. With the addition of South Africa, China, and Las Vegas to the calendar, the season will have 25 races, and this means that at least one venue would have to be dropped. Next, McLaren leaves the Canadian Grand Prix disappointed. McLaren Racing, a British motor racing team, had some unexpected results at the Canadian Grand Prix, with celebrated drivers like Daniel Joseph Ricciardo, an Italian-Australian who had previously earned 2 podium finishes with Renault in 2020, and Lando Norris, a Belgian-British racing driver who had won the MSA Formula Championship in 2015 on the team. McLaren still couldn't score any points. Neither Lando Norris nor Daniel Ricciardo could take any points, ending a 3-race scoring streak. After the second quarter of the qualifying session, Norris had secured a disappointing 14th place. Norris attributed it to a power unit issue, which he reported during the red flag second quarter. Driving McLaren's star car P15, aka Senna, the driver could not make up for the lost time in the first double-stack pit stop, which involves a team pitting both of its drivers at the same time, with one car going through a regular pit stop first and the second car being pitted immediately after it. It's rarely used, simply because it involves a lot of precision to get everything right. Unluckily, Norris didn't even make up for the lost time in the virtual or regular safety car periods. It seems like the star didn't shine bright on McLaren. Even Norris is of the same idea, that nothing went their way on those 2 days. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think that there will be 2 race directors for the F1 next season? And which races are going to be dropped in 2023? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.